Despite the pandemic, despite the shutdown of global economies, despite, all of the hardships, this year was one of more capital flowing than any time ever and more digital commerce than any time ever. Let's look at the numbers. So we hit records in the United States in venture capital investments, an all-time high of $88 billion compared to a previous high of $82 billion. Amazing, right? Companies raised $3.6 trillion in capital, more than any other year in history. Bitcoin, here it comes again. Bitcoin hitting 40,000. I don't know if any of the members from A360 from the early days remember I gave everybody Bitcoin back about 7 years ago as one of your packages that you got. Hope you're still holding on to it. We saw $1 trillion in cryptocurrency markets. And of course, an all-time high in global e-commerce, expected to hit $7 trillion in 2023. It's not slowing down. You with me? All right, let's talk about energy. Energy means abundance as well. Money is a form of energy to make stuff happen. If you're holding on to your money and just letting it sit in the bank, you're wasting the energy you have to change the world. And the other kind of energy, well, we're going electric. Renewables are winning at a massive scale. Last year, I talked about a solar cents per kilowatt hour of 1.75 cents. This year, it's down to 1.31 cents. We're heading towards below a penny per kilowatt hour, and it is crushing. Coal is dead, long since dead, and it's beginning to crush natural gas. Photovoltaics are winning 95% of the time. We're shutting down natural gas plants. You know what? The sunniest countries in the world are the poorest countries in the world. We're about to see this entire shift in global power. And so the question is, what does that mean for us? What are you investing in? Now, of course, if we've got a lot of renewable energies, we need batteries. And batteries are going to see a 17,000% increase in global demand in the next 3 years. What's driving that? Well, country after country is saying no more gas and diesel cars, right? We have 12 countries banning the sale of gas and diesel by 2030, 9 by 2040. We're seeing for the first time ever a 0.5 gigawatt fusion plant under construction in France right now. Yes, fusion is finally coming. And then we're going to hear from Bill Gross tomorrow, an amazing entrepreneur, about his company called Heliogen. And Heliogen is a sunlight refinery. They use machine learning to point thousands of mirrors at a particular point to turn the temperature up to 1,000 degrees C, at which point water breaks down to hydrogen and oxygen. It's a plant to mine hydrogen out of water using sunlight. Okay, something for all of us. I'm proud of a lot of all of you who are focused on health and longevity. This year has been one about massive growth, vaccines, CRISPR, and even age reversal. So let's jump in. I mean, there's one story in health this year. It's been COVID-19. But it's also the fact that we went from an RNA sequence in January to at least 2, maybe 4 global vaccines approved at lightning speed, never before, in a whole new category of vaccines using messenger RNA. But vaccines are not just for viruses. I'm very proud one of the companies that I'm a co-founder of, Vaccinity, is using vaccines to treat Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, hypercholesteremia, entering phase 1, 2, 3 clinical trials. And another company, Cellularity, is using natural killer cells to fight and combat the COVID-19 pandemic and fight and combat cancers. We're in a period of time that is truly extraordinary. When the mRNA sequence for COVID-19 was first discovered in January, it was digitally teleported. The virus was sequenced, the virus was then transmitted, and then recreated in labs around the world. We teleported the virus. We're seeing CRISPR break out, right? It won the Nobel Prize, $1.5 billion in revenue this year. And CRISPR is being used by incredible companies to cure blindness. It's biblical. Congenital blindness. Injecting it into the back of the eye, a CRISPR molecule, to treat in vivo. And then we're seeing CRISPR being used ex vivo to cure beta thalassemia and sickle cell anemia. It's amazing. We are curing diseases that were never thought curable. Treatable, yes. Curable, a fantasy coming true right now. So we're also seeing something that is amazing. We're going to have with us David Sinclair once again. And David last year spoke about this work, just got published last month in Nature as the cover, Turning Back Time. And so what he's done is being able to use 3 what's called Yamanaka transcription factors to go into the cells of the eye and the optic nerve of an aged rat and reverse aging. We're going to talk with him about the notion, can we in fact not only slow aging and stop aging, but take you back 30 years? All of this is driving on top of computation and AI, and this year has been one of exponential growth, things going faster, AI becoming more human-like, AI improving our health, and then quantum supremacy. We heard that term last year for the first time. It's back far, far more, accelerating at a rate I cannot even begin to explain. So first and foremost, people have talked about the death of Moore's Law. It's still going on. Here we can see literally the number of transistors per microprocessor continuing to double year on year through 2020. It's not slowing down. We saw the world's largest computer chip, 1.2 trillion transistors, more than a supercomputer, on a single chip, right? We saw here an explosion in data rates. Look at this, right? So we're here in 2020. By 2025, 175 zettabytes. That's 175 trillion gigabytes of data. We are exploding in a world of data. For those of you out there, it's critical you understand what data you have. How do you acquire the data? How do you mine the data? Data is truly, I'm not going to say the new oil, it's the new solar energy. We're seeing AI playing in a huge role. Our friends at Salesforce have an AI called Einstein. It generates 80 billion predictions per day. What are the predictions? Like, which of your products are going to sell the most today? Which of your, of your invoices are likely to get paid? So what do you want to know? It's in the data. I love this example. An AI program studied 500,000 studies on food, and it generated a strategy to end world hunger for $14 billion a year. That's amazing. There are 2 epic AI companies on the planet that I love. DeepMind, which is owned by Alphabet, and OpenAI. I'll come back to that OpenAI in a moment. DeepMind this year came up with a new deep reinforcement learning algorithm called Mu0 that can learn to play a game, without having the rules, and then go on to master the game. So I'm going to ask you again, what are the games out there? Real estate buying, marketing, everything we do in one way, shape, or form is a game. And I've said this before, if you're not mastering or using AI by the end of this decade, you're not going to be in business. There are 2 kinds of companies by the end of 2030, those that are using AI and those that are bankrupt. The other major company is called OpenAI, and OpenAI came up with something called GPT-3. It's a deep learning protocol that can write human-like text. It can write blogs and songs and stories. And so here's an example. GPT-3 was given this headline, "Feeling unproductive? Maybe you should stop overthinking." And it wrote a blog that became the #1 blog on Hacker News. Here's another thing that GPT-3 can do. If you give it images, and here we see an image, and you block out half of the image on the bottom, and you say, what's the rest of the image? What should it look like? It can predict what the image could look like. I mean, that's extraordinary. We're seeing AI being used in the discovery of medicines. A dear friend, Alex Zeverankov, had this incredible result. He generated from just a A theory to a med in 46 days for pulmonary fibrosis. We're seeing AI being used to detect brain aneurysms at 97.5%, better than a human doctor. We're seeing DeepMind learn how to fold a protein from its amino acid sequence. I remember when I was at MIT, the supercomputing problem of the century was, can you go from an amino acid sequence to predict the folding of a protein? And ultimately, that was crazy impossible. AlphaFold is able to predict it with an average error of 1 atom's width. I mean, that's amazing. But what's coming is even more amazing. It's quantum computers. So you measure the power of a quantum computer by virtue of the number of qubits it has. And this is a prediction of what we're going to be seeing, literally an explosion number of qubits. By 2023, a 17-fold, 1,700% increase in the number of qubits, right? Let me show you what this means. This is Google's quantum computer, which we heard about for the first time, reaching quantum supremacy. Today, it's being used to simulate chemical reactions. What that means is discovering new batteries, new fertilizers, new antibiotics, new cell-cell interactions, new mechanisms to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. So that's Google's quantum computer. But last month in China, at the University of Science and Technology, a light-based quantum computer called Zhou with, I can have a hard time even saying it, 100 trillion times faster, 100 trillion times faster than the world's fastest supercomputer. And their claim, 10 billion times faster than Google's quantum computer. Go look it up. What does this mean, right? When you talk about the rate of change accelerating, this is going to impact the future of medicine, the future of energy, the future of our environment, the future of food. It's extraordinary. All right, let's jump into the field of communications and networks and sensors. This year, it's been all about lots of satellites, 5G, and explosive growth around the world, the Internet of Things reaching trillions of dollars of value potential, sensors everywhere, robots with touch. We're going to hear from Jonathan Hoffler. Jonathan is a friend. He was a graduate of my university. He's also the person running Starlink for SpaceX, in charge of launching 12,000 satellites. So he'll be joining us here. And they're at 1,000 satellites beginning beta service with 50 to 150 megabytes per second. We're seeing 5G. We had the CEO of AT&T Mobile last year talking about this. Well, guess what? They're in explosive growth. They cannot provide as much demand, cannot meet the demand here. 3 billion people, 11x by 2025, right? 13 million in 2019, going to 2.8 billion by 2025. That's 2,000-fold growth in just 6 years. That's crazy. But it doesn't stop there, because guess what? 6G is coming. It's not slowing down. I love this quote. 6G speeds could be fast enough to download 142 hours of Netflix in a second. I mean, like, wow. Even if they're off by just a little bit, I'll forgive them. All right, the Internet of Things. We're not only connecting people, we're connecting everything on the planet, right? My Oura Ring, my Apple Watch, my glucose monitor, my little chip here. 35 billion connected devices this year, growing to 75 billion by 2025. What that means is a $1 trillion market. So if you're looking as entrepreneurs for where to go, this is one of the good ones. I love this. We're giving sense and touch to robots and to VR users. So this is stretchable fiber optic sensors allow you to feel what's on the other end of the robotic touch, or, you know, literally to do robotic surgery, to get sensory feedback. These are the haptic suits from Ready Player One are here. This is another form. This is a silicon artificial skin that can conduct pain and pressure and temperature for people with prosthetics or for our future robots. If you're taking a med, are you taking the right amount? this smartwatch can detect it in your sweat to find out whether your drug levels are optimized or not. And then we can 3D print and put sensors on your organs, on your lung, on your liver, to get feedback directly from inside yourself. And, you know, LiDAR used to be one of the most expensive things. On the top of Google's autonomous cars, they were somewhere between 80,000 and 150,000. They were big, they were clunky. You know, Velodyne that made that now has produced something the size of 2 decks of cards for $100, right? We're seeing massive demonetization and dematerialization taking place. Let's talk about transportation. Transportation this last 12 months has gone electric, autonomous, underground, and airborne. So on the electric side, we're seeing this year in 2020 a 43% purchase growth in electric vehicles at the same time that all vehicles slumped 20%. Electric vehicles are coming, and they're coming strong, right? One of the reasons it's going to continue to grow is Tesla's got their tabless battery, 5 times the energy density, half the cost. That's going to enable a $25,000 Tesla, which is just the beginning. We're seeing a 63% annual year-on-year growth of autonomous vehicles, reaching 54 billion by 2026. We're seeing Waymo operational in Arizona, right? So 1 million users being serviced in 3 cities. Tesla is in beta, and guess what? Amazon got in the business. They bought Zoox for $1 billion, and this is their 4-passenger taxi that can turn around in a circle on a spot. It's an amazing vehicle. I actually had a chance to ride in one of these back a couple years ago. Now, if you want a personalized transportation method, I've had a chance to put on this suit thanks to Will Weissman. This is the jet suit by a friend, Richard Browning, that can allow you to get to a first responder to get to an injured hiker in just 90 seconds.
Altitudes of 12,000 feet, and its 5 jet engines allow for speeds of up to 32 miles an hour. That can make the difference for people lost, stranded, or hurt in the wilderness.
It is nowhere near as easy as he makes it look. Believe me, I got to hover for about like 3 seconds, but I'm sure they'll add sensors and AI to make it easy for all of us. I'm proud I was a co-founder, board member of Hyperloop One. They finally started this year for passenger at 100 miles an hour, not 600 miles an hour. But these are in tubes. Underground in Las Vegas, we see Boring Corporation building their underground network of tunnels, and these will be Teslas at 155 miles per hour. All right. We have an incredible faculty member here with us today who's going to be speaking a little bit, Cyrus Sagiri, talking about this entire market. I want to preview for it. This is $1.5 trillion of addressable market by 2040, which explains why there are hundreds of different designs and billions of dollars flowing into giving you a flying car, right? You know, Peter Thiel famously said, we were promised flying cars and all we got was 140 characters. Well, guess what? The flying cars are here. Yeah, I can't wait. We've got all kinds of different designs. This is a single-person version. Here we've got from Airbus, their City Airbus. It takes 4 people up, 75 miles per hour, 60-mile range. We've got this one from Geely Terrafugia, you know, cruising because it's got a wing at 111 miles per hour. We're seeing this. Larry Page was the first person, co-founder of Google, Alphabet, the first person ever to say we should be building these, and he's invested heavily in 3 or 4 companies. This is one of them called Whisk Air, operating down in New Zealand. And let's talk about robots and drones. So this year, lots of cool robots, embedded AI, and lots of drones. So every year, my friends at Boston Dynamics put out their end-of-year video, and I wait and I wait. And this year, it did not disappoint. Here's Atlas with 28 hydraulic joints. And the Spot robot, you can actually buy. We had Spot last year at A360, if you guys remember. You can buy it for $75,000 if you want a dog that doesn't poop or doesn't, you know. And, of course, we're seeing warehouse robots, and this is an example of what's out there. This robot can recognize 10,000 objects with 99% accuracy. Industrial robots are on the rise, and we saw a bump this year. They're needed. up 500% since 2010. Now, here's an example of a human-robot combination in an exosuit. Exosuit can lift 200 pounds. And if by any chance it doesn't work and you injure your back, there's always this robot masseuse who can help you out at home. I want one of these, definitely. I've got an amazing body worker, but I definitely want one. All right, drones, lots of drones. Amazon Prime Air got their Part 135 approval. They're going to start delivering soon. We'll hear about that from Cyrus. Walmart and Flytrain. This is 6 pounds, 32 miles per hour, 7-mile range. And, of course, Alphabet Wing. Now, they called it wing because it has a wing versus just the vertical takeoff, right? It can hover, but it can fly at higher velocities, 65 miles per hour, because it uses aerodynamics of a wing for lift. Now, if you need longer duration, there's an electric gas hybrid that has a 10-hour range, which is pretty amazing, right? If you want to monitor something at altitude for a while, this is the way to go. But the coolest drone, by far, without question, is only a month away from landing on the surface of Mars. So here it is. It's the Ingenuity Drone on top of Perseverance. It's landing on February 18th in just under a month's time. Electric, solar, and exploration drone. All right. By the way, I can't wait to put on my VR goggles and go explore Mars. That will be awesome. So this year in the virtual AR extended reality, it's all about virtualizing. It's all about exponential demand. But it's been all about Zoom, right? We're on Zoom right now, and it's a Zoom mania. So check this out. You saw this chart. I've shown you this chart. Back in May, Zoom was worth about $50 billion, more than the top 7 airlines. We have dematerialized, demonetized travel around the world. But that was back in May. Today, it's $110 billion, worth more than, like, the top 20 airlines. It's insane. Global shipments of VR and AR are about to increase 10x, and we're going to meet some of the top VR and AR companies over the next few days and understand where this capital is going. We're seeing $2 billion invested just this year in AR and VR. And we're seeing the VR market on track to multiply by 18-fold in the next 6 years. So again, if you're looking at where to go, these are markets that are exploding onto the scene. All right, 2 more. Let's talk about 3D printing. We've gone from giant printers to microscopic printers, printing stuff inside your body, inside nuclear reactors. So we're going to learn more about this. This is Europe's largest 3D printer. 3D printing 2-story buildings. We're going to meet the team from Icon that are printing houses today and houses for the moon. This is Relativity Space. We met Tim Ellis last year. They raised $500 million, and they're 3D printing their rocket that's going to launch in a few months. We'll bring him back to A360 next year to hear about that story. Stargate printer, the largest 3D printer metal printer in the world. This is Icon. Again, we'll meet the team from Icon that are 3D printing for the lunar surface as well. Now, on the other end is microscopic 3D printing. This is 3D printing robots for going inside your bloodstream. Those of you who are fellow Trekkies obviously know that the Voyager is 343 meters in length in the Star Trek universe. But here we see it at just 15 micrometers. We're going to 3D print stuff to go on inside your body. These are customized stents. If you need a stent, we're going to focus on how you avoid needing a stent in session modules 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. 3D printing custom bones that get implanted, and then as they slowly erode, normal bone comes in and replaces it. We're 3D printing sneakers. I love that, consumer products. And we're also 3D printing nuclear cores. How crazy is that? All right, our last session. I love ending on physics and space every year because for me, this is sort of like the 9-year-old inside me having fun. So it's rockets. Lots and lots of rockets. And asteroid missions. Lots of asteroid missions. How, the world can't get much better than that. On the field of physics, probably one of the major breakthroughs this year was superconductivity. Now, superconductors, are critically important for power transmission, for magnetic trains, for MRIs, for quantum computers. And it used to be that you had to have your materials at like -70, -100 degrees C. Up until just a couple years ago, the world record was superconductivity at -13 degrees. Just got blown out of the water, literally, at 15 degrees centigrade. So this, keep your eye on this, right? Keep your eye on this. Keep your eye on perovskite, which we've talked about before. All right, but the real stories for me have been in space. And this year, we saw just recently the flight of serial number 8 of Starship. Starship's been designed to carry 100 people to the moon, 100 people to Mars. And this aerial flip maneuver on landing is awesome. So we're about to see the flight of SN9 in the next couple days. If it flies, I'll make sure I show it on while we're on broadcast here. It's also pretty incredible that Falcon 9
landed the Falcon 9 for the 8th time. This is our life leader.
So 8 reuses of the first vehicle, of the first stage, with 9 engines, right? So that's saving something on the order of $60 million per launch. That's called profit margin. All right, check this out. We saw 3 different vehicles with epic successes. Virgin Orbit made it to orbit on its 2nd flight. Astra, company I'm an advisor for, made it to orbit on its 3rd flight. Their mission is 100 pounds for $1 million. And being able to fly super fast, a flight every day, right? This is sort of like the small scooter delivery service into space. And then Rocket Lab out of New Zealand, flying dozens of times successfully, now beginning to reuse their first stage. All right, check this out. The Hayabusa mission from Japan went out 3.25 billion miles, 6-year mission, grabbed a few grams from an asteroid, landed it in the desert of Australia. Amazing. And guess what? There's another one coming. OSIRIS-REx is the American mission, and it's on its way back right now. It will be landing shortly. So I'm going to wrap this with one last slide that I find epic. I want to put this all in perspective because it's so easy to get out of perspective for where we are. So the most epic mission in terms of changing our Copernican view of the world was this one, Kepler, looking for planets around other stars. As we've analyzed the data of the Kepler mission, which has come to its conclusion, it reveals that in our galaxy alone, there are potentially 300 million habitable planets. So we truly are living during the most extraordinary time ever in human history. Right? This is what's happened in the last 12 months. I want to take you back 100 years ago, right? Remember, it was a headrest. It was a garage door. Just think, as we accelerate, what's going to be possible in just 10 years, if not in our horizon of 20 or 30 or 40 years that we've got. And if you stick with us on the longevity side, another 100 years. I want to live to see this stuff. I want to live to see us on Mars, in the asteroids, going to other star systems. It's an amazing time ahead.